Welcome back to Super Talk Outdoors. Thank you so much for joining us. I really enjoyed that conversation with Adam Butler. And he told me during the break, actually, that he actually recently got a promotion that I did not know about. He's still sort of the acting wild turkey coordinator. They'll be filling that position at some point, but his new position is director of conservation programs. And he's the right man for that. So it's going to, the next time we're together, we'll have a little bit more conversations about this new world that he's going into and what it means for him, what it means for the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks, and what it means for Mississippi. We're very lucky to have dedicated leaders like Adam engaged in the process. That is for sure. Okay, so it's springtime. And in coastal Mississippi, springtime means that the fishing's getting good. And it's only going to get better from this point forward, as long as they don't open the Bonnie Carey Spillway. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. But let's move over to my friend, Captain Kyle Johnson. And first of all, just say good morning to him. How you doing, Kyle?
I'm doing great, man. Finally, a much-needed day off. I haven't had 2 consecutive days off since I can remember, and I'm keeping that tradition alive. I got to go right back to work tomorrow. But good to talk to you on a day off.
Well, you never know. As I enjoy visiting with so many charter boat captains, I love it when you guys are out on the water. I don't know how you do it because it's grueling. And at my age, there's no way I could go out there and do that on a daily basis the way that you do. But you love it. It's not just the fishing, it's the connecting with people and having people come back again and again. And the other thing is, man, you're just committed to making your contribution to coastal Mississippi tourism and showing people this incredible resource that you have available to you. You sent me some photos. My son Jordan, who keeps up with you, y'all are friends. I saw you caught a nice cobia over the weekend, or at least recently. But fishing's really good, isn't it, Kyle?
It is. And I definitely want to touch on that coastal tourism. It's amazing. I've been doing this full time for 6 years now, and I run a lot of trips. You know how busy I am. And still every year I hear it, especially this time of year, a lot of spring breakers. I didn't know y'all had this here, and that's always cool to hear. But also it's kind of crazy that so many people just don't understand how good of a fishery this is, and 2, how beautiful it is. People don't realize that Ship Island, Horn Island, Cat Island, it's like our destiny. We don't get a lot of rain and the water's crystal clear. We've been, I do things a little bit different than some other charter captains. I try and keep it fresh and try to keep doing new stuff and introduce. I got so many regulars, I can't do the same thing every time. So I kind of help them develop and learn and their skills better. And this year we've been doing a ton of sight casting. We just, literally pulling up on flats at Ship Island, seeing schools of reds and throwing lures in front of them. And that just, you think you're addicted to fishing, be able to see the fish, throw at it, get them to eat, then you're really addicted. So it's been fun, man. Yeah, I usually kind of hold off on that first cobia post. I always catch them early. I don't know. I'm just lucky about it. But I said, you know what, this year I kind of want to make it known I catch them early. So, and then it worked. I've got a lot of messages, and I caught that cobia on Saturday. Today's Monday. I caught it on Saturday, posted it that day, which I hardly ever post same day. And Sunday, I was headed out the Chandelier, and I know it was my fault. I don't really care because I wasn't fishing for them. The buoys were loaded with boats, and that was definitely my fault. I know, because I didn't see anybody on buoys all week. I did that post, and on Sunday it was like 10 boats in the morning. So it was pretty funny.
Well, what that means is that people are really paying attention. Listen, I'll tell you something you may not know about me. When I was growing up, I was born in Birmingham, Alabama. We moved to Mobile for a really short period of time, and then we moved to Pensacola. And my dad was with a company called Lee Leitner, and they did floor covering and stuff like this. And eventually, he actually went into that business, and then he evolved into a home builder and a real estate broker, et cetera. But that time we spent in Pensacola, the reason we went there, he had an opportunity, and my mother's parents lived there. They lived in Pensacola, and they had a beauty salon called the Eldustin Salon. And that's where my mother and my kid and my siblings, three sisters, we'd go visit my grandparents and stay there for an extended period of time. And in fact, at one point we had a house on Santa Rosa Island. So I was kind of raised during the summertime in those areas, and my dad would kind of go back and forth, but he was running his company, and we just got to spend a lot of time in Pensacola, especially during the summers. But my I was always blown away that my parents would let me walk down the beach to go to the Pensacola Pier. And I remember like 10, 11, 12 years old doing that. And I would listen, I was on the end of that pier barefooted, standing on the rail, sight casting the Bonita and Kings and stuff like that at 12 years old. I think back at it and I'm like, good Lord, I can't believe they let me do it. But man, that's what hooked me. That sight casting hooked me. And watching an aggressive bonita come up and get a cigar minnow or a king mackerel and just hook it, and it runs trying to get out to deep water over the sandbars. That is so addicting. And that's
Yeah.
essentially what you're doing from the boat, isn't it?
Mhm. Yep. And we, you know, nothing can make you better as a fisherman than time on the water, and that's one reason I became a full time guide. I'm just so addicted. I had to figure out how I could make a living and spend as much time on the water as possible. And one thing I've gotten really good at is knowing where fish are hanging out, which I mean that's 90% of it. But I just kind of had their patterns down, and I know where they like to hang out certain times a year, and it's just cool. A lot of people think that they're not going to be able to do it. But then if you put them in front of enough targets, eventually they're going to hit one. So we talked about Richard Smith on the last one, a fly fishing guide, and him and I have been talking a lot lately. I had a fly client, and Richard actually tied some flies for me, and I used his flies. And we were joking a lot. And I told him, I said, I'm not the best fly fisherman in the world. I said, but I know how to find fish. And he goes, that's mostly what it is, Kyle. He's like, but yeah, I love sight casting, and I love introducing people into it because, it just, you can just tell, people are always looking for that next, that you can put them on an incredible bite. And they just, what's next? If it's the same fish over and over, they want something new, and that's what I'm trying to keep doing with my clients and even new clients. I don't like to just go target one thing. I like to show them a little bit of everything, and I've learned a lot about the history around here, and you throw that in there, and people seem very appreciative of that as well, because you say it all the time, we have a rich history here, and it's cool to hear. It's cool to hear when you're visiting a place and it has that much cool history.
It's the capital of the outdoors. I'm telling you, man, we take it for granted. For people who don't focus on what we have, when you think about, deer hunting and turkey hunting and duck hunting and offshore fishing and backwater fishing and freshwater fishing. Again, I often say you're going to find better mule deer hunting in other states, and you're going to find better elk hunting in better other states. But you start adding it up, what Mississippi brings to the table. And of course, I grew up in the backwaters and offshore here in coastal Mississippi. What we have access to from here is truly remarkable. You add it all together, and it's really awesome. Sounds like what's happened, because I remember the last time you and I talked, you were sight casting for maybe sheephead and drums and stuff like that on the sandbars, and now the redfish have moved in, and you're sight casting for those. What a transition that is.
Yeah. Every year it's going to be the black drum take over those islands. I mean, just huge schools of big black drum, and then as it warms up and as all the bait comes from offshore, now the islands are loaded with mullet and pogies, and it's on. The trout are spawning, the reds are everywhere. I mean, yesterday we had a trip about as good as it gets to the Chandelier Islands. I'm not kidding. 8 straight hours of catching. I mean, my guys even said it when we got back. They said, I've never had my wrist hurt from fishing. And that's
Isn't
just
that
trout and
great?
redfish all day. So it's definitely on, man. That spring bite is on, and it's only going to get better. That was post full moon. I mean, that was awesome. It was great.
Well, I thought about you. I thought about you Sunday as we were headed to our Palm Sunday celebration at St. Michael, the Fisherman's Church here in Biloxi.
Yeah.
We come down I-110 and go through the loop, and when you go around that loop, you're able to look out over the Mississippi Sound, and it was slick as glass. I mean, it was so beautiful. Um, it was, it can be magical here, can it?
Oh yeah, I was already catching fish by the time you were going around that loop. We were in the water at daylight. There's nothing like running in the pitch black, and you got a group of guys. They've been waiting to get out there, and it was just all their dreams came. And I love it. The guy caught his second biggest trout he's ever caught. I mean, it was awesome, dude. I loved it.
We're visiting with my friend Captain Cal Johnson. We'll tell you a little bit more about his guide service when we come back on the other side, but we'll also talk about the Bonnie Carey Spillway. Let's pray that thing doesn't open. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to Super Talk Outdoors. We're having a terrific opportunity to visit my friend Captain Cal Johnson, who's a charter boat captain here in coastal Mississippi. And he's been a regular on this show. He loves connecting with people. You got to love connecting with people. Cal, I haven't talked to you about the captain down in Florida that made national news with the way he was treating people. But when I look at a video like that, literally getting on this young man's boat, I've seen some other videos where he was hollering at customers and whatever. He clearly had an anger management problem. Guys like that don't last very long in coastal Mississippi, do they?
No. And, it's unfortunate how all that went down. I really hope that guy gets some help. He honestly has some issues, and it's scary to think that he's guiding people in that state. It really is. Honestly, I don't want to get on a soapbox, but I hope the Coast Guard really starts cracking down. There's a lot of captains out there that probably shouldn't be running, that have a record just like he does, that are running. I know some of them, So hopefully they crack down on things like that, and we stop getting some negative press on charter captains. I'll spin it for you real quick. I really wish that when a charter captain did something extremely awesome, they would get as much attention as we do if we do something bad. But yeah, that was a little much, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Listen, when I was publisher of the Sun Herald, you know the story well, but I worked with Haley Barber after Hurricane Katrina on the recovery effort. And Haley Barber used to say about what you just said, that the press don't like to cover planes that land safely. That's just the world we live in right now. And, he's right about that. Sadly, he's right about that. But hey, here's the good news. The good news is everybody's a reporter now. Everybody has that phone in their hand and are able to capture stuff that before we would not have had. So, that tool actually keeps everybody a bit honest. I'm sure that you have to be aware that every time someone lifts that camera, it's telling a story.
I don't know if you saw my post yesterday, but I've become a little vocal. I don't cuss at people, out on the water, but I definitely let them know in a kind way at first that what they're doing is wrong. And how that conversation goes after that depends on how they reply. If they reply in a bad way, I'm going to give it right back to them. But we had a guy yesterday. We're waiting at Chandelier. We're in the water. We're a good 100 yards away from my boat. And I'm not kidding, Ricky. A guy literally idled over where we were casting and completely killed our bite. And, I just held my tongue. I looked at my guys. They were mad. They wanted to say something. I said, hey, you know what? We don't know them. We don't know what they got on their boat. It kind of made me, that video made me think a little different. We're out at Chandelier, very remote place. We don't know what that guy's going through. We don't know if he's got a gun. I mean, I sure got a gun, but we don't know what's going on with him. So I said, let's just pick up and move. I'm confident enough. I can go put us in a different spot and catch fish again. And that's what we did. Yeah. And it turned out to be a great thing. We had a great bite at the next spot. So it's crazy out there on the water now, and you never know. I could have said something, and nobody could have ever seen the background of what he did first, and it could ruin my career. That guy, Brock, he deserved to have his career ruined. I will say that. But imagine if something would have happened, and there would have been a backstory that he wasn't at fault as much, and just totally ruined his career. So I'm going to be a little careful for a little while after that viral video.
You have to be, man. You just have, again, everybody's a reporter. And your point that you made, I think, is so well made. In fact, I'm in the process of writing a book now about lessons learned from storms in life, Katrina among them. And one of the things that I think we don't focus on enough, I think social media puts us in a position where we should probably focus more, and we don't. And that is, we never know what someone's going through. We just don't know. We can assume we know, and we don't know. And it could be sadness or it could be anger. You never know what you're going to face. And I would say, don't ask for it. I mean, it should always be the bigger person and stand down and move on. I think you did exactly the right thing. Hey, listen,
One thing
real quick. We got less than two.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. Finish. You
Well, I
finish.
just wanted to say on that note, one thing I've learned in the past maybe 4 or 5 years is every time I've opened my mouth when I really wanted to in the moment, it's never worked out well. It's every time I've just kind of, it's just not worth it. Just move on. So that's a
hey, we got
lesson.
less than a minute left. Bonnie Carey Spillway, it changes the flow of the Mississippi River, pulls all that water into the Mississippi Sound to relieve the pressure on the potential flooding of New Orleans. They're prepping that. Hopefully they don't have to open it. What are you hearing?
I'm watching it, and I'm sure they're going to open it. They don't care about us. They're going to open it. But here's some things to remember, and things that for people that are listening to know. Like I said, I've been a guide full time. I was a full time guide when they opened it last time. It didn't slow me down. I just had to adjust. If I got to pick up my boat and trailer to Pascagoula to fish, I'll do it. You got to have an open mind. You got to be able to adapt. It's going to affect a lot of guides that are fishing the Louisiana marsh. And if that's all they know, that's going to affect them. They're going to have to learn some new tactics. I'm going to go where the fish are. It's going to push the fish somewhere, and I'm going to follow them. I'm not going to stop. I ran trips every day during that, and we caught fish every day. So just going to have to adapt. That's all we can do. We can't stop them.
This is my friend, Captain Kyle Johnson. Look him up. You'll be glad you did. Listen, Kyle, it's been a pleasure to spend some time with you.
I know. These always go by too fast. You need to give me like an hour one day.
Hey, we will. We will, for a matter of fact. We will definitely do that. Listen, have a great day. Stay safe in the outdoors. Always put safety first. God bless you, and we'll see you next Monday.